where the news comes to talk. It's the Round Table. Round 1 at 7:45. Round 2 at 8:45. Weekday mornings on Moore in the Morning.
On Round 1 this morning, Christy Blatchford is back. Christy, people missed you. They kept thinking, where's Christy? I was getting texts almost every day.
Oh, that's really nice. Thank you.
All right. Also, Adam Goldenberg, Toronto lawyer. Mark Toohey, former chief of staff to the mayor, now host of the best show ever. And very pleased to announce that David Dole, who's the host of the Rational National on YouTube, has a new show. You're going to be doing a show Sunday nights on News Talk 1010.
That's right. It'll be a left-leaning look at news, politics, culture, and political strategy. And the first show is actually going to focus on populism. And is Doug Ford an actual populist, or is he a fake populist?
All that and more coming up. News Talk 1010 weekend programming. Let's start digging into some of the day's big stories. And why don't we start with Marco Muzzo? Mark Toohey, it's no surprise, but I compare this to the Stations of the Cross. It's no easier to go through these Stations of the Cross with Marco Muzzo just because we know that they're coming our way. 7th of November, parole hearing. I'm not an expert, but I suspect that because of the way he's conducted himself and the way the system works, he will probably be at least a partly free man on the 8th of November.
On the basis of the way that the parole board is supposed to work, I suspect you're probably right. However, the media attention and the public outrage over this one could perhaps, provide an opportunity for some of the parole board members to find that one thread that would sort of give them the reason to deny it in the first instance. I don't know. He has, in all honesty, done everything that we ever expect of a contrite sinner to do. Like, he didn't contest, he didn't ask for bail, he stayed in jail, he didn't contest the charges, he didn't try to come up with an excuse. Right, he just kind of went with the flow. So if ever there was a guy who's done everything we've asked of him so far, of someone who's done something horrible, it's this guy.
Adam, is it fair that in all likelihood that 2-member parole panel could hear 4 cases that day? They could all be drunk drivers, but Muzzo might not get parole because the public hates him so much.
I think that would be a very big problem. I think if what Mark suggested could happen did happen, that would be a significant issue for the administration of justice, just as it's a significant issue for the administration of justice when conservative politicians rail against individual prisoners being moved from one in custody location to another, or say that someone should be denied their opportunity to make their case to a parole board because what they did was heinous. We have a system. It has rules. They apply to everybody. That's what justice requires.
Christy?
Yeah, I agree. And we don't actually know, excuse me, what sort of an inmate Mr. Muzzo has been. That's part of what is presented at a parole hearing is your institutional behavior. Have you taken programming, et cetera, et cetera. And my expectation is that all of you on the panel are right and that he will have proved himself to be a model inmate. There are rules. He appears, from what we know now, to have played by all the rules. And, the rules are that after a certain period of serving your sentence, you're eligible for day parole, and absent any bad institutional behavior, you're probably going to be successful, as you should be.
I always wonder how much wealth and privilege plays in a situation like this, but I actually think in this case, it hasn't really played a role. His initial sentence was harsh, or it was tough considering other situations where a drunk driver has killed someone. So I think he'll be treated the way that the system should treat him.
I was less concerned about the role of wealth and privilege. I agree with you. I don't think it played a role, but I'm concerned about the role of intense kind of hand-wringing publicity, which has accompanied this case all the way through. And we'll see how that affects the parole board.
Yeah, I got to push back a little bit on Adam's suggestion that this is a conservative sort of brand thing where, conservatives try to muck up with the justice system. That's patently false. I mean,
come on. No, it isn't.
The
Read
Prime
the
Minister of
newspaper, Mark.
Canada said a jury was wrong. Said a jury was wrong in the case of Colton Boushie. So this isn't unique to one brand of partisan politics or another. This is politicians doing their jobs, but also
Mark,
representing society. The rules are created by us, Adam, and if we don't like them, we can change them through the proper course.
But you and I had an argument on this very panel, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, about a federal conservative push not to change the rules, but to monkey around with what Corrections Canada was doing with a single inmate. That's
Where
no
were
different.
you when Justin Trudeau said, jury, go home, you're wrong, this man was guilty?
That's not what he said.
Quote?
That's ridiculous. That
is exactly the point of his interference. And every other liberal politician stood up behind him.
Raising issues about how the criminal justice system handles victims of crime who are Indigenous
Or
is
the
not the same
placement of them
as saying,
in different prisons.
All right. Let's talk about a bomb of another kind. I don't think yesterday and even this morning are days that will live in infamy, but it's very, very concerning when this many parcel bombs turn up in the United States. I think we're up to about 8 of them, including Robert De Niro this morning.
4 would be fine, but anything over 4,
every
that's
one
upsetting.
of them targeting prominent Democrats, starting with George Soros, who's seen as the Satan of the Democratic movement. I don't know why the Koch brothers are gods, but Soros is somehow the enemy. It's hard to know where to start with this, but let's listen a bit of Donald Trump last night, who didn't exactly strike the right note in essentially saying, this is all the media's fault because they lie about me, and oh, by the way, can't we all just get along?
The media also has a responsibility to set a civil tone and to stop the endless hostility and constant negative and oftentimes false attacks.
David Dole, I was talking to David Cesno this morning, one of the original, or Mark Cesno, I think, one of the original anchors at CNN, who's now making his career trying to make the media a more decent place, in America a more decent place. And I compared Donald Trump's posture last night to a guy who goes into a bar, punches you in the face, and then says, hey, how come we can't get along?
Yeah, so Trump has definitely, flamed this fire. So right-wing terrorism is on the rise, and according to the Global Terrorism Database, 65 incidents in 2017, 37 of them were tied to right-wing extremists. So Trump's rhetoric is just, it's fanning this issue where the right-wing extremism was already on the rise in terms of hate crimes, in terms of political ideology. And now that we're seeing Trump acting like it's the media's fault when he has clearly played a role in this is disturbing.
The level of conspiracy theory, though, Mark Toohey, is astounding because almost immediately after the parcel bombs started showing up yesterday, the talking point was liberals sent them to themselves.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, I don't have any data that you don't have. And I don't know why you think George Soros is a god and the Koch brothers are evil incarnate. But
I think they each fund their own causes. But Soros, all you have to say...
It depends on your political perspective.
I know, but all you have to say in talk radio is Soros funded, and automatically it's some radical, crazy, conspiracy.
All you have to do is mention the Koch brothers' names and the left-wing bell ring. I mean, this is just partisanship. But, when you start to bomb people, I don't care whether you're left, right, or center on the political spectrum, top or bottom, that's just criminal behavior. And thank God that whoever is doing this is just not very good at it.
My problem with the way this has been covered and the way that it's been talked about is that the impulse on the part of the media, and I say this with the greatest of respect, is to do a pox on both your houses, there's problems on both sides thing. This is not a both sides problem, and I'm looking at Mark as I say this, but this is a conservative issue. Donald Trump got elected because he purposefully fanned the flames that were burning before he came on the scene. Let's not make any mistakes. The Republicans have been doing this for a long time, of hatred, of far-right extremism, and we can't be surprised when, and we don't know yet that this is what happened, but it certainly looks like it is, when some people take that message to heart and move toward acts of violence. This is what happens.
Just as we are told, properly so, to wait before we conclude that anyone who has committed a crime is a Muslim extremist. Wait for the facts to come in. So should we wait for the facts to come in on this. I suspect that people are right, and this is some rabid Donald Trump-inspired lunatic, the work of such a person. But let's wait to see. Just as when, the Danforth shooter shot up and it turned out he was Muslim. Nobody was allowed, and nor should they have gone to that sort of immediate conclusion that he was a Muslim extremist. He was a Muslim man, probably mentally ill and a bunch of other things. So let's just hold our jets a bit.
The man who has played Pokeroo is apparently a costume maker and has now made himself a new mascot outfit called Tokaroo. I don't know who wants to go first on this one, but I think I understand why TVO's not happy about this.
Look, I grew up watching Polka Dot Door. I always just assumed that Pokeroo was high all the time.
Well, HR Puffin stuff, come on.
So, I mean, legally, I completely understand why they're angry. This is clearly their property, and to use Pokeroo in a way that they don't want Pokeroo to be used, and that person be able to benefit from that is not right.
All right, let's keep moving because I don't know if there's any pro-Tokaroo people here. Principal apparently walked into a classroom this week where they have a dress code and asked all the girls to stand up and then proceeded to measure them. Perhaps on second thought, it seemed like a bad idea. So the principal went back, I think with the head of HR or something, and said, I'm so sorry about this. But Adam, honestly, making girls measure their skirts, it's like something out of a bad film from the 30s.
It's Victorian. I mean, it's been happening for so long that even I remember it from high school. Look, I think that the story here is not school uniforms are a problem or this particular principal is a problem. I think this principal probably erred in judgment and recognized it immediately, and credit to him. I think the expectation going forward should be that if you're going to have a dress code that requires girls to have their skirts only go a certain number of inches above the knee, that it's a female teacher or administrator who polices that. I don't want to take a position on whether, how high above the knee a girl's skirt should go. I think there are good reasons why parents and teachers have school dress codes in place the way they are, but policing them, you do have to be mindful of some of these concerns, which probably we should have been mindful of for a lot longer than we have been.
I am not a Catholic. I have never been a Catholic. I don't even know any Catholics. But I do not understand why a religious group that values Christian values and Catholic values forces its young girls to wear clothing that has inspired an entire fetishist category in the pornography industry. That just doesn't make sense from the get-go. Maybe it's time to let them wear pants.
It's just a habit, Mark.
Yeah, Christy, the same guy who was doing the measuring said that the girls were basically Jezebels. It was making it tough on the boys because they were showing too much leg.
Yeah, look, it's an awkward, amusing situation because girls who go to high school, the second the teacher's back or their parents' backs, I did this myself,
Yep.
They still do it, hike up their skirts to way past what it's supposed to be. So they're not unaware of their effect on boys. That said, in the Me Too era, you got to be much more careful about your language, etc. Because if you aren't, it may be that this principal realized himself that he handled it poorly, but much more likely is that some of the kids complained and the school administration suggested he apologize. It took 2 days. It wasn't an instantaneous thing. And I don't get it. We're too sensitive. All of us, every single one of us has become too sensitive.
We got to call it there. Thank you, everybody.
Burkas for everyone.
Catch the round table. Round 1 at 7:45. Round 2 at 8:45. Weekday mornings on More in the Morning. In-depth radio. News Talk 1010.